What is up, Fin Nation? Welcome back to the 305 Gridiron. I am your host, Josh, aka Aqua Ace. And I'm joined with my good friend and amazing co-host, Anthony. I'm riding solo tonight for a quick breaking news segment. The Dolphins finally did it, boys. We finally did it. We have a new head coach. The first time in nearly 2 decades, the Miami Dolphins have officially hit the reset button on all decision makers. And did they do it the right way? We're not real sure. The first domino, brand new general manager, John-Eric Sullivan, as we all are aware. And now a new head coach, Jeff Hafley. Let's talk about it. All right. We are here not to see my beautiful face, but to talk about our Miami Dolphins. Join us in the chat, please. Go nuts. Like I said, I'm riding solo. I already see Blake and I already see Abel here. Thank you so very much, gentlemen, for joining. Just doing a quick breaking news segment. I know some of this is not great breaking news for most of you, as we are aware that Jeff Hafley is and our beloved leader and is our new head coach for our Miami Dolphins. Just wanted to take a moment to talk about him, see how you guys feel in the chat. So please let us know in the chat. Don't be shy. Let me know what your thoughts. Do you like this move? Do you not like this move? Are you, kind of taking a wait and see approach, or do you, just despise this altogether? Let's do a quick high level overview of Jeff Hafley. Okay. Big picture, right? He is very much a culture and structure head coach, right? We all know that has a little bit of head coaching experience at the college rank at Boston College, and we'll go over kind of his resume just at a high level. Obvious defensive background, but really has seemingly, based on what the research I've done and some of the interviews that I've watched and just watching Green Bay, really has a defensive kind of background and a head coach mindset, which is kind of a breath of fresh air, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. He's really known for in the Green Bay ring. So I reached out to some of my friends and some of my kind of connects, whatever you want to call them, in the Green Bay realm, and they really talked about his knowledge for developing talent, for connecting, but kind of having like a no BS approach to things, and coming from what we just came from with Mike McDaniel, I do think that is going to be like a breath of fresh air. I don't know how you guys feel. I know Mike McDaniel was kind of the players coach, and God, I wanted to get along with it. I wanted to be everyone's best friends. But when you're leading a group of men, I don't necessarily know if that is always going to work. Maybe at first to make everyone comfortable, but there needs to be accountability, and there needs to be some seriousness in the room from the leader of your team, not just from your position room head or your position room coach, but from the guy that is leading your entire organization. And I know this isn't really a flashy move, and it's not a big name, and it's not John Harbaugh, it's not Stefanski, it's not maybe us trading for Matt LaFleur. This is just seemingly a guy, right? It's Jeff Hafley. But, I actually am really excited about what he could do. Now we have to see how he fills out his staff, and we have to see the choices and the decisions that he makes here in the next, hopefully, couple of weeks. Hopefully we start seeing some stuff come in real quick. But, for all intents and purposes, this was the right move after some of the initial dominoes had fallen. He is touted as a draft and develop coach, just like our new GM in Sully, as he likes to be called, John-Eric Sullivan, which I think is going to be great, which I think is going to allow us to lay the foundation, build this thing up the right way, if you will. And it's going to take some time, and it's not going to be fun at the beginning. We are all well aware of the situation that we are in as an organization. And we are all well aware of the financial ramifications that the previous regime made, that we are going to have to, in the words of Kyle Krabs, take our medicine. And we're going to have to just eat shit for a little bit until we can clear off some of the stuff off our books from a cap standpoint, get some players out of the building from a also from a cap standpoint. And in a lot of those cases, we're talking about Tyreek Hills, the Bradley Chubbs, the Austin Jacksons, probably the Tuas. And then start drafting and start developing. And so, from a head coach standpoint, right? I mean, I don't mean to go so high level. Let's hone in on Hafley, right? He's our new general, if you will. Why does him being a culture and structure coach and him being a draft and develop guy, why does that matter, right? I would say in most cases, Miami hasn't really lacked talent over the last handful of decades, right? But we have lacked numerous phases of this organization rebuild, restructure, restructure, is identity, discipline, and consistency. Right? Those three things are non-existent in the Dolphins realm and has been since Wannstedt, maybe Sperano, you could argue. I would say that this hire, where it seems very mundane, very vanilla, if you will, it signals a complete shift in mentality. We're shifting away from the cool vibes, the South Beach stuff, whatever, to really standards and accountability. And I think that is something that we touted on this show, and I've heard it on other podcasts and talked to you guys, and you guys have said it, has been something that this team has seriously lacked. Standards and accountability, which is kind of crazy to say. Let me pause here for a second. And let me ask you guys in the chat. I can see Blake. I can see Abel. Thank you both for joining. And for those that are watching, please chime into the chat if you're new, if you're a regular. This feels like a coach hired to build something, a coach and a GM hired to build something, not save something. Like, what were your initial thoughts when the name John-Eric Sullivan, but in this case, Jeff Hafley, popped up on your iPhone or on your screen or in your feed as the new Miami Dolphins head coach? What was your initial thought? Was it, ick? Was it amazing? Or was it, all right, well, let's see what happens. And while you're getting, please put it in the chat, and I'll pop it up on the screen, and we can chat about it. I'm solo today. I don't have anyone to bounce stuff off of, so please, you guys chime in. Blake here, honestly, I'm completely fine with this hire. The more I research, the more I like Haf. Let's see what he does with Sully to turn this around. Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more, Blake. I have seen quite a lot of fans on Bleacher Report and Reddit and other forums that I'm on that are Dolphins specific really genuinely hate this. Like, there's so much disdain for this hire, and I don't understand it. And more specifically for us, matching, basically hiring two Green Bay people at the same time. Like, why would you want to bring in that? Blah, blah. I actually love it, if I'm being completely honest. I think, Ross has done something that he's never done before, which is do a complete reset of the GM, head coach, coaching staff. For the last 20 years that he's on this team, he's done half measures where he kept Chris Greer and hired a coach, or got rid of a coach to bring in Chris Greer. And it was never a full reset, even though it was needed. And this time, he brought a contingent of people to make the GM hire. They did quite a lot of interviews. They settled on one person, John-Eric Sullivan, who then took that contingent of people and did his own research. And I think we were like 13 or 14 freaking interviews at one point, or names that were associated and accepted a call, if you will, from Miami. And he settled on somebody that he knows, and somebody that clearly won, the interview in the room, if you will. And he was also someone that was on like 6 or 7, maybe 8 final lists for other teams that were looking for head coaches, which tells me that this isn't like a, hey, I'm going to hire my best friend. And that gives me a little bit of hope. That tells me that this team is doing something differently, but doing it the right way, which I think is something that we haven't always associated with the Miami Dolphins, specifically the front office. Abel here, he's not the biggest fish, but hey, everyone wanted him. I'm getting a feeling too, he's the guy in for the long haul, brick by brick. Yeah. Seriously, Abel. I mean, perfectly said. Brick by brick is the mentality that we need to take. And with that brick by brick philosophy and mentality that these two people, John-Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley, are bringing into this organization. I cannot preach it enough. I've said it as many times as humanly possible leading up to this decision, and I'll say it a million times more, especially as we get into the offseason with decisions that are going to have to be made. We need to take a breath as a fan base. I understand it's hard. I understand we've spent 2 decades, maybe more, really getting punched in the mouth consistently. And right when we think it's over and we stand up and we try to take a deep breath, boom, here comes a left uppercut. And I understand it's made us super jaded and very short-fused. But I will say this is going to take at least a season for us to right this shit before clear change can set in. We have to, and I use this analogy all the time on the show, so I apologize for those regular listeners, but we need to rip this thing down to the studs. We need to tear down the walls, and by that I mean we need to clear some cap off our books. We need to make some decisions, some tough decisions on some players, and Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb, and we're going to get. You guys think we were a young team this past season, which we were. I mean, we went from the season before this past season, we were the 4th or 5th oldest team in the league, and in one off season we were top 5 youngest teams in the league last season. We're going to look way younger because we finally have draft capital. We finally have things, that can be used to bring youth in here. And we finally have in Hafley a coach that has a different mentality, that is not beholden to any preconceived notions from the Miami Dolphins that were brought in by their best friend, by a GM that's been here for as long as Chris Gridiron was. He's brought in to run the team as a head coach, and let's look at his resume really quick. So he was in 2021. He was the running backs coach at Worcester Polytech. Sure, cool. He was young. He was very, very young for that. University of Albany, in 2002 to 2003, he was the defensive assistant and defensive coach for the DTs, the defensive tackles. 2004 and 2002 in the 2004-2005 season, he was the DB's coach. He then went to University of Pittsburgh for a handful of seasons, coaching the secondary. Rutgers, he was the secondaries coach. Tampa Bay, he was a secondary. He was the assistant DB's coach in 2012. And in 2013, he got promoted to secondary and safeties coach. Then he worked with the Cleveland Browns as DB coach, San Francisco DB coach, Ohio State back into college. Then he got the Boston College head coaching job from 2020 to 2023. And now, and since then, he was the DC in Green Bay. And now he's our head coach. So, lots of college, some pro. But what I took away from his background, it's nothing flashy. It's nothing exciting. It was his head coaching at Boston College. Now, I know I'm an ACC. I'm a Florida State grad, which, isn't saying a lot right now because we suck. But Boston College is in a Power 5 conference, the ACC, and was one of the lowest funded, from an NIL standpoint towards the end, which is why he left. But just from a resource standpoint, he had to fight with some powerhouses in that, the Florida State Seminoles. He had to fight with, other teams in the ACC for players. And Boston College had some talent on that team while he was the head coach, and he convinced them to stay instead of going pro. And he built a hell of a program and has a hell of a reputation as a college head coach before he moved back to the pros with Green Bay. And it gives me a little bit of breath of fresh air because for those of y'all that are regulars here, you guys know that Anthony and myself, we were screaming from the rafters like, dude, please do not give us another coordinator. We want somebody with head coaching experience. And where this Hafley wasn't my first or second choice. My first choice was obviously John Harbaugh. But when we brought in Eric Sullivan, I knew that was out the window because Harbaugh wanted all the power in the world. And some would say rightfully so. Signed the $100 million, whatever it was, contract with New York Giants. Okay, he's gone. My true number one after that happened was Stefanski, because I wanted somebody that was a head coach desperately. I didn't want a flashy coordinator. I didn't want the guy with the big name like Mike McDaniel coming in as the run guru for a really good San Francisco team or whatever the case was. But I do like the fact that this guy has run an organization before, albeit at the college level, but he has run an organization before, and it gives him the perspective that is needed to be a head coach in the NFL. He's been around, he's been in an organization with the Green Bay Packers, working with Sullivan and working with the contingent of coaches there to see what it takes to be a head coach. Because when you're a head coach, when you come in as a coordinator, my fear was, like Mike McDaniel, you're good at one thing. You've perfected one thing. And in Mike McDaniel's case, it was being the run game coordinator, right? Drawing up these really fun plays and being a player's guy and being friendly with everyone. But coming in as a head coach, you have to worry about so much other stuff: schedules, injuries, meals, meal plans, and how you're going to do that with travel and setting and working with the front office to make sure everything is prepped for travel, for schedule. I mean, there's so much that goes into it other than the X's and O's of football. And so bringing in yet another coordinator that has zero any sort of head coaching or any kind of top dog mentality to understand what goes into that kind of role as on the team was very stressful for me, because I was like, oh, we're stuck in quicksand. But I do like the fact that this guy has been a head coach, and he was a head coach for 3 years. So he got his feet wet, he sunk his teeth in, again, albeit at the college level, but that is still some experience that coordinators that have been nothing but coordinators wouldn't have had. And I think his ties in that kind of draft and develop mentality with Sully, our GM, is going to do wonders for this team. Again, it's going to take some time. It genuinely is going to take some time. And I think if we as fans can just take a deep breath and enjoy the ride next year and understand we are not going to be a very good football team. If we're in games, great, enjoy the ride. But understand that it's going to be a rough season next year going into the 2027 season, where we are going to have a substantial more amount of cap space, followed by yet another year in 2028 where we're going to have close to $130-something million in cap, which is going to be amazing. So what to expect from kind of his philosophy, which is something that, Anthony and I talk about quite a lot after we found out who we were hiring. I've said it on this show already, and you'll hear it when Anthony's back and we're doing other shows. That draft and develop mentality, heavy emphasis. He puts a heavy emphasis on player development, on teaching fundamentals from day one, making sure that each player in that player's position knows exactly what A, is expected of him, but B, also what the guy next to him is supposed to do, so that everyone on the team can be better because of it. If you go back and watch film from the Packers, or go back to Boston College and watch his players play in college, you see that every player does their 1/11th. They don't do more, which I love, because what happens when you have players that try to do more than their 1/11th on defense or offense, I guess, when he was the head coach of Boston College, you have players out of position trying to do something crazy. That is not how you win football games. Fundamentals, teaching fundamentals from day one is going to be a big part of his coaching philosophy. And I absolutely love that, because I think we can all agree, and chime into the chat if you think I'm completely off point here, but I think this team has lacked fundamentals for the last 4 years with Mike McDaniel. And that is a direct reflection of the head coach. A coach coming in all willy-nilly, high-fiving people, looking like, cool glasses with $1,000 shoes, coming in and just trying to be everyone's best friends. There's a little bit of lackadaisical mentality that comes with that, because there was no accountability. And that is not an opinion. That was widely reported, that there was no accountability until the very end, when there was no choice. And I think this coach is going to come in and be able to relate to the players on the team, because that is another thing that a lot of Green Bay players have come out and said since he became the head coach of the Miami Dolphins is, dude, he gets along with everyone, but he'll bust your ass if you screw up. And I absolutely love that. I guess the other thing is that I noticed when I was watching Green Bay, watching film, going back to Boston College and watching some of his earlier film, like from the 49ers when he was the defensive back coach in 2016, or from 2016 to 2018, was I never saw a lot of mental mistakes. And that, again, relates directly back to clearer roles for players. Players know exactly where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to do. At least that was my impression. And he's done it with high-level talent, Micah Parsons, for example, but he's also done it with like undrafted rookies, which I thought was awesome, with late round draft picks, which I love to see. And, you know, it's just looking at Green Bay specifically. It's what I want Miami to be so bad. I just want us to be a team that is cohesive, that is accountable, that it understands the structure from the top down. And we never had that because the GM and Chris Grier was very much, he told me to do it. Mike McDaniel was, hey guys, high five, everyone's cool. And nobody really knew who the captain was, for lack of a better term. And there's a clear structure now. John-Eric Sullivan, Jeff Hafley, whoever he hires as offensive and defensive and coordinators and scouts and everything below that, and then the players. And I think that is going to do wonders for changing the mentality of both us fans, getting used to what the new norm is, but also from the player standpoint, getting players in here with that draft and develop mentality. Eric Sully said it, the GM said it in that first video on the Dolphins website. I'm blanking, Wingfield, I believe. I'm blanking on his first name. He said it during that interview. Players that you draft and develop kind of retain and embody the purpose of this team, the mentality, understand the concepts and why we are doing what we're doing, why we are doing the what. Whereas when you sign a bunch of, I think, what was the term you used? Mercenaries. They coming from different teams that had different philosophies, and there's not a lot of buy-in. And so I think what's really going to be big here is watching this team rip it down to the studs this offseason and going into next year. Again, I cannot say it enough. I'm sorry to have to be the bearer of bad news here, but if you don't see it, that's on you. This is going to be a rough year next year. We are going to see a lot of turnover. We're going to see a lot of young players. We're going to make a lot of mistakes because we're going to be playing so many young players. But this is a good transition. We are transitioning the right way. You know, I got into a lot of conversations with some people over the last, since we were looking for a GM, once we signed the GM rather, about why a full organization reset matters. Like, and I'll pause here for a second and ask you guys, are you guys fans of this full reset, or do you wish we held some kind of pieces over to kind of quicken the transition, if you will? Please put it in the chat. For me, Miami did it right. Like I said at the beginning of the show, Ross has never, in the 20-ish years that he's owned this team, hired a new GM and a new head coach at the same time. Never. Which is insane to me, given the fact that we've had 437 head coaches and 68 resets. We've never actually done a full reset. And I like the mentality. I like the, Daryl, how dare you? I remember the last time we took the Packers leftover Joe Philbin. Anyone? This is not that. I'm well aware of this. This is often. This is said all the time, and you have to remember back then there was quite a lot of high level player backing Joe Philbin. Which is how he ended up here, because Chris Grier and Ross were allergic to doing things the right way. And look, if this turns out to be Philbin 2.0, Daryl, come back and spike the ball, for lack of a better term. And I will be the first one to eat crow, but the vibe I get is different. I did not like the Joe Philbin signing immediately. As soon as his name came up, I flipped the table, not really, but I wanted to, because I thought it was, at the time, the worst decision that we could make. The same thing with Adam Gase. I'm all set, dude. No, thank you, crazy eyes. Go back to Roger Rabbit. And please, Daryl, make sure to come back, because if I'm wrong and in 2 years this dude is flopping out of the league because he can't fucking coach his way out of a brown paper bag, I will happily eat crow and give you your flowers. I swear to God, I will. But the vibe I get is different. This seems like a mature guy that is not a fish out of water, where this isn't something, he's not coming into a position that is too big for him or that is brand new to him. He seems like a guy that comes in, knows how to do things the right way, and is going to work with the GM, but in the right structure where it's GM making the decisions for the head coach to coach. Basically, GM is buying the groceries, the head coach is cooking the meal, as opposed to just a shit show of this, hey, we're all collabing and we're all blah, blah. No, like, you're my boss. You make the fucking decisions. You tell me what projects need to get done. I will do said projects. And I think between the two of them coming in with outside perspective of both Miami and the Dolphins, and those are two separate things. There's Miami and then there are the Miami Dolphins, but also coming from a team that has historically been good at drafting and developing, that has historically been good at, developing quarterbacks, that, has historically been good at developing coaching talent. They are bringing that mindset. I mean, John-Eric Sullivan was with the Green Bay Packers in every single facet of front office from when he was like 21 years old. For 2 decades, he was there learning under historical, like top tier, like Hall of Fame level GM and front office people, and worked. I think he referenced it somewhere. I saw somewhere. It was like they called it the 20 and 20, where they hired a 20-year-old and paid him $20,000 for the year. And you start off as like an assistant scouts water boy or something like that. And you worked your way up, and a lot of people fell off, and he just kept going up through the ranks and going up through the ranks. I mean, it was widely reported, so that none of this is brand new news. But he, in the scouting realm, there is a prestigious award, and I'm blanking on the name, but he won the best scout, for lack of a better term, in the nation 2 times in a row. So he also knows how to evaluate and scout talent, which tells me he's going to know what to look for because we fire all of our scouts, all of our head scouts. He's going to know what to look for from a personnel standpoint when he looks to fill those positions, which gives me a little bit of relief. We are historically good at firing coaches. Hey, at least there's that. 3 or 4 years ever since Shula. I think the only one that has lasted more than 4 years was Dave Wannstedt, if I'm not mistaken. I think he made it to his 5th season before he got let go, but don't quote me on that. Somebody fact check me if I'm wrong. So, all of this is to really say, I really like the head coach. Was it my first choice? No. I mean, I would be lying to you if I said it was. But I do like this is going to sound so stupid, but I like how vanilla it is. I mean, I know that's so silly, but I do. I like the fact that this is seemingly a no bullshit kind of guy who's got a ton of fundamentals to fall back on, working alongside of a GM that knows him, and he knows the GM, and the GM knows the head coach. So they know what the expectations are from one another for one another. And I think that is huge in the power dynamic and how they work, on building draft boards, on drafting players, on developing players, on free agent signings, on knowing what is needed for a team. So closing comments. Before we go, this is a breaking news show, so these aren't going to last, Cree. I mean, I try to keep them under, 15 minutes, but this is a big deal. So, I just wanted to hear myself talk and hang out with you guys for a little bit. This hire was not about headlines. I think we can all agree about that. This is not a flashy head coach. This is not a flashy GM. This is about alignment. This is about patience. This is about building something from the ground up foundationally that makes sense from the top down. Excuse me. The Dolphins chose to do a full foundational reset instead of kind of patchwork, and chose structure over splash, which I think is huge. Really now we take a collective deep breath and see what Hafley does for his offensive defensive coordinator, because I do think I have no idea who he's going to hire. I have no idea. I don't even have internal expectations of who I think we should hire. I do think there's a pretty decent offensive coordinator out there who name rhymes with Schmick-Daniel, but he's not coming to be our OC. So, and all joking aside, I do think that that is going to be very pivotal in the success or failure of Hafley as a head coach is going to be who he hires for defensive and offensive coordinators. So, when we do find out who those hires are, if we are on a little hiatus for the show, from live shows, we are posting our grade videos while we reset and get ready for the off season. That we've already announced that, we being Anthony and myself. So you will constantly see videos come out that are pre-recorded of us grading each position room. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Check those out. And once we hear who and if our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator or any kind of coaching decisions are made by our head coach and GM, myself or Anthony or both of us will jump on, do a quick live breaking news show so we can talk about it as fans. This is going to do it for us. Breaking news episode on the 305 Gridiron. Thank you all very, very much for joining us quasi last minute. Really appreciate Abel. Thank you very much. Blake, appreciate you. Daryl, don't forget, hold me accountable if I'm wrong. Shout out to the Frozen Fin fan. Shout out to the Dolphin Nation. Shout out to anyone that has liked and subscribed to the video. Please, we have an internal, very big goal by middle of February 11th, February 12th, I can't remember, of getting to 150 subscribers. We are close. If we do so, we will be doing a live giveaway for some Dolphin gear, some show merch as a thank you to each and every one of you. So please like and subscribe. Tell your friend, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your teacher. Doesn't matter. Let's get to that goal so we can give some shit away. If you enjoyed this breakdown, like I said, please hit the like and subscribe button. Share with your Dolphins friends because this offseason is just getting started, fellas. We are in it for the long haul. I'm very excited to be doing this with you. Thank you all, each and every one of you, for joining us. And until next time, catch you later. Fins up, baby.